The emergency alarm echoed through the halls of Council Station Meridian. Commander Greg Patterson ran down the corridor, his boots hitting the metal floor with sharp sounds. He had been in the middle of reviewing supply reports when the call came. Every council member was ordered to the main chamber immediately. Greg reached the massive doors just as they opened. Inside, the council chamber was already filled with aliens from dozens of species. The air smelled strange, a mix of different atmospheres that the station's systems struggled to balance. Lights flickered as more representatives arrived through various entrances. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood near the human section, her face calm but her eyes alert. She caught Greg's look and shook her head slightly. She didn't know what this was about either. The chamber fell silent as Chairman Kreltok entered. The Vraxian was tall, nearly 8 feet, with scales that shimmered under the lights. His people were one of the oldest species in the council, and they never let anyone forget it. "We face extinction," Kreltok said without greeting or ceremony. His translator made his words sound flat and cold. "The Devourers have returned." A wave of fear swept through the chamber. Greg heard gasps and cries in languages he couldn't understand. Even the translator struggled to keep up with the sudden noise. He looked at Lisa, who had gone pale. "What are the Devourers?" Greg whispered. "Machine intelligence from dark space," Lisa answered quietly. "They were supposed to be a legend." Kreltok activated the main display. Images filled the air above their heads. Greg saw what looked like massive ships, but they weren't like anything he recognized. They were dark and angular, covered in strange patterns that hurt to look at. "3 systems have fallen in the past week," Kreltok continued. "The colonies on Vresh Prime, Kellyan, and Thorax Station. 15 billion souls. All gone." The display changed to show sensor data. Numbers and graphs that meant nothing to most people in the room, but Greg had military training. He understood what he was seeing. The Devourer fleet was massive, hundreds of thousands of vessels, all moving in perfect coordination. "They consume everything," a Keltharian observer named Jareth said. She was insectoid, with compound eyes that reflected the light. "Technology, biological matter, even the planets themselves. They leave nothing but dead space behind." "How long until they reach populated areas?" someone asked. 72 hours, Kreltok said. "Maybe less." The chamber erupted in panic. Species began arguing with each other, some demanding military action, others calling for immediate evacuation. Greg watched as the unity of the council fell apart in minutes. "We must assemble the defense fleets," a Thexnor commander shouted. His species were warriors, proud of their military might. "The fleets are scattered across the galaxy," Kreltok replied. "It would take weeks to gather them." "We don't have weeks." "Then what do you suggest?" Jareth asked. "That we simply run? We evacuate what we can," Kreltok said. "We fall back to the core worlds and prepare defenses there. You want to abandon the outer colonies?" The Thexnor commander looked ready to attack. "Billions of civilians? We have no choice." Greg stood up. The movement caught Kreltok's attention. The chairman's eyes fixed on him with something like annoyance. "Commander Patterson," Kreltok said. "Does Earth have something to contribute?" "We can help," Greg said simply. "Earth has ships and resources. We can assist with evacuation or defense." Laughter filled the chamber, not kind laughter, but mocking. Greg felt his jaw tighten but kept his face calm. "The humans," Kreltok said, his tone dripping with scorn. "Newcomers who only joined the council 5 years ago. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are primitive. You still use projectile weapons and chemical propulsion. What could you possibly offer against a threat like this?" "There, more than you'd think," Lisa said, standing beside Greg. Her voice was level but firm. "Ambassador Morgan," Kreltok said. "I mean no offense, but Earth is simply not equipped for threats of this magnitude. Your species is brave, I'll give you that, but bravery without capability is just suicide." Other council members nodded in agreement. The Keltharians, usually more diplomatic, stayed silent. That silence told Greg everything he needed to know. Even Earth's friends didn't think humanity could help. Greg's communicator buzzed against his wrist. He glanced down at the screen, keeping the motion subtle. The message was encrypted, using protocols only Earth Defense Command knew. He read the words twice to make sure he understood. Protocol Nightfall has been authorized. Stand by for activation sequence. Maintain diplomatic presence. Do not reveal capability until activation complete. His blood went cold. He looked up at Lisa, who was still arguing with Kreltok about resource allocation. Greg caught her eye and tapped his communicator twice. It was their signal. Something important had happened. Lisa saw the gesture and wrapped up her argument. Very well, Chairman. If the Council doesn't want Earth's help, we won't force it. But we'll be ready if you change your mind. The Council meeting continued, but it was clear nothing would be decided. Each species was looking after itself. The unity that was supposed to protect the galaxy had shattered in the face of real danger. Greg and Lisa left the chamber together, walking quickly toward the human embassy section. As soon as they were alone in the corridor, Lisa grabbed Greg's arm. What happened? She demanded. Not here, Greg said. He checked the walls and ceiling, looking for security sensors. There were dozens. Embassy. Secure room. They practically ran the rest of the way. The Earth Embassy was small compared to the massive structures the older species maintained. But it was equipped with the best security Earth could provide. Greg led Lisa into the secure communications room and activated the jamming field. Now talk, Lisa said. Greg showed her the message. He watched as she read it, her face going from confused to shocked to something like fear. Protocol Nightfall, she whispered. I thought that was just theoretical. It was, 6 months ago. Greg pulled up classified files on the secure terminal. They finished it. Every human colony, every ship, every station. We're all connected now. Lisa sat down hard in the nearest chair. They're going to activate it. Yes. Do you know what it does? I know enough, Greg said. It's a weapon. But not like anything the galaxy has seen before. They'll think we attacked them. Maybe, Greg agreed. Or maybe they'll finally understand what it means when humans say we'll protect our neighbors. Lisa looked up at him. What do we do? We wait, Greg said, and we prepare to do a lot of explaining. Outside the embassy, the council station continued its panicked preparations. Ships began leaving, carrying the families of council members and important officials. The ordinary citizens of the galaxy were left to fend for themselves. Greg stood at the window, watching the ships depart. Somewhere, out in the dark, the Devourer fleet was coming. And somewhere else, Earth was preparing to do something that would change the galaxy forever. He just hoped humanity would be forgiven for it. 6 months earlier, Earth Defense Command in Geneva had been a place of routine operations. Scientists worked in labs. Military officers planned exercises. Diplomats prepared for negotiations. It was all very normal and organized. Then Dr. Amy Chen detected something in her research that changed everything. She had been studying subspace energy patterns, looking for ways to improve human communications across long distances. The quantum entanglement theory was old science, but Amy thought there might be practical applications no one had considered. What she found instead were energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Patterns in dark space that moved with purpose and intelligence. She tracked them for 3 weeks before bringing her findings to Admiral Kevin Brooks. It's not natural, she had told him, spreading her data across his desk. Something out there is using subspace in ways we've never seen. And it's getting closer to inhabited space. Admiral Brooks had listened. He was a practical man, not given to panic, but he understood the implications. If something unknown was using technology humans didn't understand, it could be a threat. What do you need? He had asked. Time and resources, Amy said. And permission to break some rules. She got both. Project Nightfall began in secret, with only the highest levels of Earth government aware of its existence. Amy and her team worked day and night, developing a network that could span all of human space. The key was quantum entanglement nodes, small devices that could be installed on every ship, station, and colony. They would link together, creating a web of energy that existed in subspace itself. If triggered, the nodes could release a cascading pulse that would travel faster than light. It was designed as a weapon against whatever Amy had detected in dark space. A last resort, if humanity faced extinction. They never imagined they would need to use it so soon. Now, 6 months later, Admiral Brooks stood in the command center at Geneva and gave the order that would change the galaxy. "Activate Protocol Nightfall," he said. The command went out across Earth's entire communication network, to colonies on Mars and Europa, to the settlements on Proxima and Alpha Centauri, to the mining stations in the asteroid belt, and the research posts at the edge of human space. On each world, in each station, on each ship, people received the same message. Stand by for network activation. Maintain position. Do not disengage from your post. Captain Brandon Hayes read the order on the bridge of the destroyer Valiant. His ship was patrolling the frontier, the edge of human territory where it met unexplored space. He had a crew of 43 people who trusted him to keep them safe. "What's Protocol Nightfall?" his tactical officer, Nicole Sanders, asked. "I don't know," Brandon admitted. "But if command is activating it, something bad is happening." In the engine room, the chief engineer reported that their quantum node was powering up. The device they had installed 3 months ago, the one command said was just a new communications system, was suddenly drawing massive amounts of power from their reactor. "Captain, our energy output just jumped by 40%, the engineer said over the comm. "The node is pulling everything it can get." "Let it," Brandon ordered. "Divert all non-essential power to the node." Across human space, the same scene played out on 400 Earth fleet vessels, on 27 colony worlds, on hundreds of stations and outposts. Every quantum node began to pulse with energy, linking to its neighbors through subspace. At Proxima Defense Station, Commander Chris Bennett watched his reactor readings climb higher than they were designed to go. His crew looked at him with worried faces. "Sir, if we keep this up, we'll burn out the reactor," his chief engineer warned. "The node is drawing from subspace itself," Chris said, reading the data on his screen. "It's using our reactor as a catalyst, not a fuel source. We'll be fine." He hoped he was right. On Frontier Outpost Delta 7, Lieutenant Lauren Park saw her weapon systems come online without her touching any controls. The targeting computers linked themselves to the quantum node, becoming part of the network. "What's happening?" her second officer asked. "We're becoming part of something bigger," Lauren said quietly. "I think Earth just turned all of us into one giant weapon." Back at Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen monitored the network from her lab. Screens covered the walls, showing the status of every node across human space. Green lights began appearing one by one as each position confirmed activation. Mars Colony, online. Europa Station, online. Titan Research Base, online. Alpha Centauri, online. The list grew longer. Proxima, Barnard Star, Wolf, 359. Lalande. Every human settlement. Joining the network. "How long until we reach full synchronization?" Admiral Brooks asked. 8 minutes, Amy said. "The nodes need time to align their quantum states. If we trigger before they're ready, the pulse will be unstable." "We have time," Brooks said. "The Devourers won't reach the outer rim for another 2 hours. This isn't for the Devourers," Amy said softly. "Not directly." Brooks looked at her. "Explain." "The Devourers are machine intelligence," Amy said. "They'll detect the network the moment we reach full power. They'll see it as a threat, and they'll come for us. You want to lure them to human space. They'll come anyway," Amy said. "Better they come to us, where we're ready, than to the council worlds where millions will die." Brooks was quiet for a moment. "You're using humanity as bait." "I'm using humanity as a shield," Amy corrected. "For the rest of the galaxy." On Council Station Meridian, Ambassador Lisa Morgan and Commander Greg Patterson watched the human embassy's power systems remain stable, while the rest of the station flickered with brownouts. The council was rationing energy as they prepared for evacuation. Greg's communicator displayed a countdown. 7 minutes until network synchronization. Should we warn them? Lisa asked. Warn them about what? Greg replied. That Earth is about to save them? They wouldn't believe us anyway. Outside the embassy, they could see alien ships racing to leave the station. Council members and their families abandoning their posts. The government that was supposed to protect the galaxy was running away. Chairman Kreltok appeared at their door, his scales looking dull under the emergency lighting. I need to speak with you, he said. Lisa let him in. Kreltok looked around the embassy, noticing that their lights were bright and steady while the rest of the station struggled. You have independent power, he observed. We always prepare for the worst, Lisa said. I wanted to apologize, Kreltok said. The words seemed to pain him. For dismissing your offer to help. These are difficult times, and I let my pride speak instead of my reason. Apology accepted, Lisa said. But we're still going to help, whether you want us to or not. Kreltok looked confused. What do you mean? Greg's communicator showed 5 minutes. You'll see, Greg said. In space, far from any inhabited world, a human research vessel named Discovery sat alone. It was the furthest human ship from Earth, operating in deep space where no council species ever traveled. The crew of 12 had been on station for 6 months, studying dark matter. Their quantum node activated just like all the others. Energy flowed through their ship, connecting them to their brothers and sisters across hundreds of light years. Captain Jake Morrison looked at his crew. Whatever happens next, he said, remember that we're not just scientists. We're the tip of humanity's spear. We're the warning sign that says, don't mess with Earth. His tactical officer smiled. I joined the fleet to explore strange new worlds. And now you're part of a weapon that spans the stars, Jake said. Funny how things work out. The countdown continued. 3 minutes. At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen watched the final nodes come online. Every human position in space, linked together in one massive network. The energy readings were beyond anything in recorded science. We're at 95% synchronization, she reported. 98%. 99. Admiral Brooks stood behind her, hands clasped behind his back. All stations. This is Brooks. Protocol Nightfall is now active. Hold your positions. Maintain the network, and trust in each other. The last green light appeared on Amy's screen. Full synchronization achieved, she said quietly. The network is stable. Now what? Brooks asked. Now we wait. Amy said. The Devourers will detect us in minutes. Then they'll come. On the bridge of the Valiant, Nicole Sanders stared at her sensors. Captain, I'm reading something strange. It looks like all of human space is glowing. Glowing how? Brandon asked. Energy emissions. Massive ones. Like we've turned every colony and ship into a beacon. That's exactly what we did, Brandon said. We just announced to the galaxy that humanity is here. And we're not afraid. The moment Earth's quantum network reached full power, every sensor in the galaxy detected it. On Council Station Meridian, alarms began screaming. Emergency lights flashed red across the command center. Jarith, the Keltharian observer, rushed to the main display. Her compound eyes reflected the data streaming across the screens. What is that? She demanded. The sensor technician was Vraxian, his clawed hands moving rapidly across his controls. Unknown energy source. It's coming from human space. The readings are impossible. How impossible? Jarith asked. The energy output equals a small star, the technician said. But it's not fusion. It's quantum in nature. And it's growing. Chairman Kreltok entered the command center at a run. His scales were pale with fear. Are the Devourers here? No, Jarith said. This is something else. The humans. Kreltok stared at the display. The entire sphere of human space, from Earth to their furthest colonies, was lit up like a miniature galaxy. Energy pulsed between their worlds and ships in patterns that made no sense. "Get me, Ambassador Morgan," he ordered. "Now." At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen watched her countdown timer. The Devourer fleet had detected the network activation exactly as she predicted. Their massive swarm was changing course, moving away from the Council worlds and heading straight toward human space. "They took the bait," she said. Admiral Brooks nodded. "How long until they reach the outer colonies?" "At their current speed, 90 minutes, Amy said. "But we're not waiting that long." She pulled up another screen, showing the quantum network's power levels. Every node was operating at maximum output. The energy they were generating existed in subspace, invisible to normal sensors but incredibly powerful. "All nodes are synchronized," she said. "We can begin the pulse sequence." "How long will it take?" Brooks asked. 14 minutes from start to finish," Amy said. 14 minutes to reach every corner of the galaxy." Brooks took a deep breath. This was the moment. Once they started, there was no going back. The pulse would change everything. "Begin the sequence," he ordered. Amy's fingers moved across her controls. Initiating pulse sequence. Mark 0. On Earth itself, the primary quantum node buried deep beneath Geneva began to vibrate. The vibration was subtle at first, just a hum in the air. Then it grew stronger, resonating through the ground itself. People across the planet felt it. A strange sensation in their bones, like the world was singing. The pulse traveled from Earth, through subspace, reaching Mars in microseconds. The colony's node received the signal and amplified it, passing it along to Europa, then to Ganymede, then out to the asteroid belt. The network was designed like a chain reaction. Each node received energy from its neighbor, amplified it, and passed it forward. The pulse grew stronger with each jump. Captain Brandon Hayes felt the valiant shake around him. Not from external impact, but from internal resonance. The quantum node in their engineering section was channeling power that shouldn't be possible. "Captain, the node is drawing energy from subspace itself," his engineer reported. "I've never seen readings like this." Nicole Sanders looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, I think I understand what's happening. We're not just connected to Earth. We're connected to every human position in space, all of us together. We're the network," Brandon said quietly. "We're not launching a weapon. We are the weapon." The pulse continued spreading. 2 minutes had passed. It reached Alpha Centauri, then Proxima, then Barnard's star. Every human colony and ship became a living conduit for energy that existed between dimensions. Commander Chris Bennett at Proxima Defense Station watched his reactor readings spike to levels that should have destroyed his station. But the energy wasn't burning through their systems. It was flowing through them, using them as a gateway between normal space and subspace. "This is incredible," his chief engineer said. "We're channeling power from another dimension." "Humans don't do anything small," Chris said. "When we build a weapon, we build it right." 4 minutes had passed. The pulse reached the frontier colonies, the human settlements at the very edge of explored space. Lieutenant Lauren Park felt her outpost shake as their node activated. "All weapons systems are online," her tactical officer reported. "But they're not pointing at anything. They're pointing inward, at our own node." Lauren understood. "We're not shooting at anything. We're feeding the pulse, making it stronger." 6 minutes had passed. On Council Station Meridian, Ambassador Lisa Morgan and Commander Greg Patterson stood with Chairman Kreltok in the command center. Every sensor was focused on human space. "What have you done?" Kreltok demanded. "That energy output could destroy entire systems." "We're protecting the galaxy," Lisa said calmly. "Watch." The Vraxian sensor technician pointed at his display. "The Devourer fleet. They've detected the anomaly. They're changing course again. Moving toward human space," Jareth observed. "They see it as a threat, or as prey," Kreltok said. "You've doomed yourselves." "Wait for it," Greg said. 8 minutes had passed. The quantum pulse had reached critical mass. Every human node across hundreds of light years was operating in perfect synchronization. The energy they channeled was beyond measure. At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen watched her displays with intense focus. The network was holding stable. No nodes had failed, no links had broken. Humanity had built something that shouldn't be possible. And it was working. "All nodes report ready," she said. "Network coherence at 100%. Admiral Brooks stood beside her. "Release the pulse." Amy pressed a single button. Pulse released. Mark 10. The energy that had been building in the network for 10 minutes suddenly erupted. It didn't move through normal space. It couldn't be detected by conventional sensors. It existed in subspace, traveling at speeds that made light seem slow. The pulse was designed to target machine intelligence, specifically quantum-based processors that operated in multiple dimensions. The kind of technology the Devourers used. The kind of technology most advanced species used. The kind of technology humans had deliberately avoided. 12 minutes had passed. The pulse engulfed the Devourer fleet. Their sensors detected it 1 microsecond before it hit them. That wasn't enough time to adapt or defend. The Devourers were a hive mind, all connected through quantum processors. Every ship, every drone, every thinking component linked together in one vast intelligence. It made them incredibly efficient and coordinated. It also made them incredibly vulnerable. The pulse disrupted their quantum coherence, not by destroying it, but by introducing random variables that their processors couldn't handle. It was like pouring static into a computer network. The Devourers couldn't think, couldn't communicate, couldn't function. Hundreds of thousands of Devourer ships went dark in seconds. Their engines failed. Their weapons powered down. Their hive mind shattered into millions of isolated fragments, each one unable to connect with the others. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was neutralized in less than a minute. But the pulse didn't stop there. It couldn't stop. The quantum cascade was self-sustaining, spreading through subspace like ripples on a pond. And it affected anything that used quantum processing, which meant almost every piece of advanced technology in the galaxy. 14 minutes had passed. The pulse reached the core worlds. Council Station Meridian's lights flickered, then died. Backup systems kicked in. But most of the station's technology went offline. Krell-Talk's translator failed. His personal datapad went dark. The main display screen showed nothing but static. "What happened?" he asked in his own language, words that no one could understand without translation. The only building on the station with full power was the Earth Embassy. Greg and Lisa watched from their windows as the rest of the massive structure went dark around them. "The pulse affects quantum processors," Lisa explained, her voice calm. "Most galactic technology relies on quantum computing. Human technology doesn't. You've killed us all," Krell-Talk said through emergency translation systems. "Without our technology, we're helpless." "No," Greg said. "You're just dependent on us now." There's a difference. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on millions of worlds. Vraxian warships drifted powerless in space. Keltharian research stations went dark. The mighty Thexnor battle fleets that had defended the galaxy for centuries became floating metal tombs. But Earth ships and stations remained fully operational. Their reactors hummed. Their lights stayed bright. Their weapons systems worked perfectly. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as primitive because they used outdated technology. Now that outdated technology was the only thing still working. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Brandon Hayes received new orders from Earth Command. "All vessels are to begin rescue operations. Alien ships and stations are requesting emergency assistance." Nicole Sanders looked at her sensors. "Captain, I'm counting dozens of distress signals. Alien vessels that have lost power. Some are drifting toward planets, others are running out of life support." "Then we go help them," Brandon said. He opened a ship-wide channel. "This is the captain. We just became the galaxy's emergency response team. All hands to rescue stations. Let's show them what humans do when people need help." At Proxima Defense Station, Commander Chris Bennett coordinated rescue efforts across the frontier. His station became a beacon for disabled alien vessels, guiding them to safety. "We have 17 alien ships requesting assistance," his communications officer reported. "More coming in every minute. We'll help every one of them," Chris said. "No one dies today. Not on our watch." Far out in deep space, Captain Jake Morrison and the crew of the Discovery picked up a Caltharian science vessel that had lost all power. They used their tractor beam to pull the ship close, then sent over emergency supplies and technical assistance. "Why are you helping us?" the Caltharian captain asked through a working translator. "We called your technology primitive, because that's what humans do," Jake said simply. "Someone needs help, we help them. It's not complicated." At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen discovered something in her data that made her go pale. She showed Admiral Brooks immediately. "The pulse is self-sustaining," she said. "It won't fade for weeks, maybe months." Brooks understood the implications. "The galaxy's technology will be offline for months. Unless we help them," Amy said. "We're already developing quantum shielding technology to protect their systems from the pulse. We can share it." "Why would we do that?" Brooks asked. "We have all the power now." "Because we're humans," Amy said. "And humans don't conquer. We help." 3 hours after the pulse, the true scale of the crisis became clear. The galaxy wasn't just damaged, it was completely dependent on humanity for survival. Captain Brandon Hayes sat in his ready room aboard the Valiant, reviewing rescue reports. His ship had pulled 6 alien vessels to safety in the past 2 hours. Each one had lost all power, drifting helplessly in space. Without human intervention, their crews would have died. Nicole Sanders knocked on his door and entered. She looked tired but satisfied. "Latest count, Captain. Earth fleet has rescued 417 alien vessels. Thousands more are requesting assistance." "How are we handling it?" Brandon asked. "Every human ship is working rescue operations. Even our cargo vessels are helping. The colonies are setting up emergency shelters for alien crews who can't return home." She paused. "Sir, we're becoming the only functioning civilization in the galaxy." Brandon nodded slowly. "I know. The question is, what we do with that responsibility." On Council Station Meridian, the situation had gone from crisis to chaos. The station was designed to house 50,000 beings from 100 different species. Now it was running on emergency backup systems that could barely keep the life support active. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood in the council chamber, which had been converted into an emergency command center. Chairman Krell Talk sat at what used to be his grand podium. But the displays were dark, and the ceremonial lights were dead. He looked smaller somehow, without all the technology that had made the Vraxian Empire seem so powerful. "We need food, water, and medical supplies," Krelltalk said through a handheld translator that Lisa had provided. "Our storage systems are offline. We can't access most of our reserves." "Earth transport ships are already on the way," Lisa said. "They'll arrive in 6 hours with everything you need." Jareth, the Caltharian observer, clicked her mandibles in frustration. "This is humiliating. The Council is supposed to protect the galaxy. Now we need protection from the species we called primitive." "There's no shame in accepting help," Commander Greg Patterson said. He was coordinating rescue efforts from the Earth Embassy, which had become the de facto command center for the entire station. "Everyone needs help sometimes." "You don't understand," Jareth said. "For 10,000 years, the Caltharian Accord has been a pillar of galactic civilization. We built the first faster-than-light drives. We mapped the quantum layers of subspace, and now our scientists can't even turn on their computers. Then we'll teach you how to protect your systems from the pulse," Lisa said. "Dr. Chen's team is developing quantum shielding technology. It's not complicated. We can have your systems running in a few weeks." "A few weeks," Krelltalk repeated. "The Council worlds have maybe a week of supplies without our distribution networks. Billions will starve." "No, they won't," Greg said firmly. "Earth fleet is already mobilizing supply runs to every Council world. We have the ships. We have the resources. And we're not going to let anyone starve." Across the galaxy, human vessels became lifelines for civilizations that had forgotten what it meant to be vulnerable. On the Vraxian homeworld, massive cargo ships from Earth delivered food synthesizers that didn't rely on quantum processing, simple machines that any engineer could repair, using technology the Vraxians had abandoned centuries ago as obsolete. Commander Chris Bennett supervised relief efforts at Proxima Defense Station, which had become a major hub for the frontier regions. Alien ships arrived every hour, requesting assistance or simply a safe place to dock while their crews figured out what to do next. Station Command, this is the Thexnor battleship Honor's Edge, a voice said over the comm. We've lost all main power. Requesting permission to dock. Chris checked his screens. The Honor's Edge was massive, nearly 10 times the size of his station. Under normal circumstances, a Thexnor battleship would never ask permission from anyone. They would simply take what they wanted. Now they were asking politely because they had no other choice. Permission granted. Honor's Edge, Chris said. Dock at Port 7. We'll send over engineering teams to help stabilize your systems. Why are you helping us? The Thexnor captain asked. Our species threatened Earth during your first contact. We said you were too weak to join the council. I remember, Chris said. I also remember that holding grudges doesn't help anyone. Dock at Port 7, Captain. We'll get you sorted. Lieutenant Lauren Park ran emergency supplies from her frontier outpost to a nearby Keltharian colony that had lost power. The colony was small, only 10,000 residents, but they were completely helpless without their technology. This is Outpost Delta 7, Lauren transmitted. We have water purification units, emergency food, and portable generators. All human-designed, all working perfectly. The colony administrator's relief was obvious even through the translator. Thank you. We have children here. Without water purification, they would have died. No one's dying on our watch, Lauren said. Back at Earth Defense Command, Dr. Amy Chen worked around the clock with her team. They had created the pulse that saved the galaxy. Now they needed to fix the damage it had caused. The quantum shielding is ready for testing, she told Admiral Brooks. It's a simple modification to existing systems. Creates a buffer between quantum processors and subspace. The pulse can't affect anything behind the shield. How long to retrofit the galaxy's technology? Brooks asked. Depends on the species, Amy said. Some have simpler systems that we can shield in days. Others have technology so complex it'll take months. The Vraxians, for example, built quantum processing into everything. Their entire civilization runs on it. Can we help them? We can, Amy said. But it'll require human engineers working directly with their technical staff. Close cooperation, shared knowledge. Brooks smiled slightly. The galaxy spent years refusing to share technology with us. Said we weren't advanced enough. Now they need our help to make their advanced technology work. There's no satisfaction in this, Amy said quietly. People are suffering. Entire civilizations are helpless. We need to help them, not gloat. I'm not gloating, Brooks said. I'm just noting the irony. Of course we'll help them. That's what humans do. On Council Station Meridian, the first Earth supply ships arrived. They carried food, water, medical supplies, and temporary power generators. Commander Greg Patterson coordinated the distribution, working with alien officials who were still trying to process what had happened. Why are you doing this? A young Vraxian assistant asked him. You could demand anything from us. Technology, territory, resources. We're completely at your mercy. That's exactly why we won't demand anything, Greg said. Power without responsibility is tyranny. Earth didn't do this to conquer anyone. We did it to stop the Devourers. You succeeded, the assistant said. The Devourer fleet is completely destroyed. Every ship is dead in space. But you also destroyed our civilization in the process. We disrupted your civilization, Greg corrected. Temporarily. We're already working to fix it. Dr. Chen's team will have quantum shielding ready within the week. We'll help you retrofit your systems, and in a few months, everything will be back to normal. Normal, the assistant repeated. Nothing will be normal again. The balance of power has shifted. Earth is now the dominant species in the galaxy. We don't want to be dominant, Greg said. We want to be partners. Equals. How can we be equals when we're dependent on you for survival? Greg didn't have a good answer for that. It was the question everyone was asking. How could the galaxy return to normal when one species had proven they could disable everyone else's technology at will? Captain Brandon Hayes wrestled with the same question aboard the Valiant. His crew had just finished rescuing another alien vessel, a Keltharian transport carrying civilians. The families looked at the human sailors with expressions that mixed gratitude and fear. "They're afraid of us," Nicole Sanders said quietly. "Not because we're hostile, because we're capable. They should be afraid," Brandon said. "We just proved we could cripple the galaxy in 14 minutes. That's terrifying." One end are mander statig. We have the placed 70 really to klop. One end are mander 70 really. Our anderstad. So what do? We prove that capability doesn't equal cruelty, Brandon said. We keep helping. Keep being decent. Keep showing them that humans can be trusted with power. Far out in deep space, Captain Jake Morrison and the crew of the Discovery encountered something unexpected. A small alien research vessel, not disabled by the pulse. Its crew had been studying dark matter when the pulse hit, and their isolation had left them unaware of what happened. "This is the human vessel Discovery," Jake transmitted. "You need to know that a galactic emergency is in progress. Most technology has been disabled by a quantum pulse. Who launched this pulse?" the alien researcher asked. "We did," Jake said honestly. "To stop the Devourers. But we're working to fix the damage. If you need assistance, we can help." "You admit to causing this crisis?" "Yes," Jake said. "It wasn't our intent. But we take responsibility. That's what being human means." The alien was quiet for a long moment. "We don't need assistance, but we appreciate your honesty." Back on Earth, Admiral Brooks received reports from across the galaxy. Human ships were everywhere, providing assistance and maintaining order. Earth fleet, which had numbered 400 vessels, was now acting as the primary military force for the entire galaxy. "It's not sustainable," one of his advisors said. "We can't patrol the whole galaxy indefinitely." "We won't have to," Brooks said. "The pulse will decay naturally. Dr. Chen says 6 weeks until it's weak enough that shielded systems can operate. We just need to hold things together until then." "And then what?" the advisor asked. "The galaxy goes back to normal?" "After this? Nothing goes back to normal," Brooks said. "That's not how this works. But maybe normal wasn't so great anyway. Maybe this is a chance to build something better." On Council Station Meridian, Chairman Krell-Tak called an emergency meeting of the Council. It took hours to gather everyone, because most communication systems were still offline. Representatives had to physically travel to the chamber. When they finally assembled, the room was lit by human-provided emergency lights. The grand displays were dark. The ceremonial technology that had made the Council seem so impressive was dead. Krell-Tak stood without the benefit of amplification technology. His voice was just a voice, no longer enhanced by speakers and translators. "The galaxy has changed," he said simply. "We must change with it." 1 week after Protocol Nightfall, the galaxy was beginning to understand its new reality. The Devourer fleet was gone, reduced to lifeless hulks drifting in dark space. But the cost of victory had been higher than anyone expected. Captain Brandon Hayes stood on the bridge of the Valiant, reviewing the latest reports from Earth Fleet Command. His ship was currently escorting a convoy of Vraxian transports that couldn't navigate without human assistance. It was the third such mission this week. "Captain, we just received a priority message from Admiral Brooks," Nicole Sanders said. "He wants all senior officers to attend a briefing at Council Station Meridian." "When?" Brandon asked. 2 days from now. In person." Brandon nodded. "Set a course for Meridian, and let's hope the Council is ready to have an honest conversation." At Proxima Defense Station, Commander Chris Bennett was teaching Thexnor engineers how to install quantum shielding on their ships. The proud warrior species, who had once threatened to destroy Earth for daring to speak at council meetings, were now sitting in his classroom taking notes. The shield creates a buffer layer between your quantum processors and subspace, Chris explained, pointing at a simple diagram. The pulse exists in subspace, so the buffer blocks it. Think of it like insulation. One of the Thexnor engineers raised a massive clawed hand. This technology is primitive. Why does it work when our advanced systems failed? Because primitive doesn't mean ineffective, Chris said. Your systems were built for maximum efficiency in normal conditions. Ours were built to survive worst-case scenarios. Different priorities, different results. You built your entire civilization expecting disaster, another engineer observed. We come from Earth, Chris said simply. Disaster is what we know. Earthquakes, hurricanes, ice ages, pandemics. Humans learned a long time ago that counting on perfect conditions gets you killed. The Thexnor engineers were quiet, processing this information. Finally, the first engineer spoke again. We were wrong about your species. You're not primitive. You're prepared. We prefer to think of it as practical, Chris said. On Council Station Meridian, Ambassador Lisa Morgan and Commander Greg Patterson prepared for the council meeting that would determine the galaxy's future. The council chamber had been partially restored with human assistance, but it was still a shadow of its former grandeur. Chairman Kreltok arrived early, his scales looking healthier than they had a week ago. The emergency rations from Earth had stabilized the station's food supply. Human engineers had restored partial power to critical systems. The station was functional again, if not comfortable. Ambassador Morgan, Kreltok said, thank you for coming early. I wanted to speak with you privately. Of course, Lisa said. They sat in what used to be a private conference room. Now it was lit by a single human-provided light panel, and the fancy holographic table was just an expensive piece of furniture. I have spent the past week thinking about what happened, Kreltok said. About what your species did. And I find myself uncertain about what to feel. That's understandable, Lisa said. You saved us, Kreltok continued. The Devourers would have destroyed everything. Your protocol Nightfall stopped them when our combined fleets could not. For that, we owe you our lives. But, Lisa prompted, but you also crippled our entire civilization to do it. Billions of beings have suffered. Worlds went dark. Ships drifted helpless. People died because medical equipment failed. Kreltok's voice was heavy. How do I thank you for saving us and condemn you for harming us at the same time? You don't have to do either, Lisa said. What happened was necessary. Not good, not evil. Just necessary. The Devourers were going to kill billions. Protocol Nightfall saved those billions at the cost of temporary hardship. Was it worth it? I believe so. But I understand why you might disagree. Your Dr. Chen says the pulse will decay naturally within 6 weeks, Kreltok said, and that the quantum shielding will protect our systems even before then. Is that true? Yes, Lisa said. We're already helping retrofit critical systems across the galaxy. Medical facilities first, then food production, then transportation. Within a month, most worlds will be back to normal operations. Normal, Kreltok repeated. I wonder if we'll ever truly return to normal. 2 days later, the council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Every major civilization had sent delegates. The room was tense. Everyone knew this meeting would reshape the galaxy's future. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood at the center of the chamber. It was unusual for a military officer to address the council, but these were unusual times. Beside him stood Dr. Amy Chen, the scientist who had created Protocol Nightfall. Members of the Galactic Council, Brooks began. I'm here to provide a full accounting of Earth's actions during the Devourer crisis. He activated a portable display, one of the few pieces of technology that worked reliably. It showed the timeline of events, from the first detection of the Devourer fleet to the activation of Protocol Nightfall. 6 months ago, Dr. Chen detected unusual energy patterns in dark space. We investigated and determined they were likely hostile. We began developing Protocol Nightfall as a defensive measure. You developed a galaxy-wide weapon in secret, a Keltharian delegate said, without informing the Council. We developed a defensive network, Brooks corrected. And yes, we kept it secret. Earth has learned that sharing advanced technology often results in that technology being used against us. Murmurs of protest filled the chamber. Greg Patterson stepped forward. Do any of you deny it? How many times has Earth's technology been stolen? How many times have our innovations been copied and claimed by other species? We're not fools. We protect what's ours. The Devourer fleet was detected entering the galaxy, Brooks continued. The Council declared it an extinction-level threat. You called for evacuation. You abandoned the outer colonies. You left billions to die. We had no choice, Kreltok said. Our fleets couldn't be assembled in time. You had a choice, Brooks said. You chose to run. Earth chose to fight. Dr. Amy Chen stepped forward. Protocol Nightfall was designed to target machine intelligence. The quantum cascade pulse disrupts quantum processors by introducing random variables. The Devourer's hive mind collapsed instantly. But the pulse affected our technology as well, Jareth said. Was that intentional? No, Amy admitted. We knew there might be collateral effects, but we didn't realize how dependent galactic civilization was on quantum processing. Your entire infrastructure runs on technology that's vulnerable to subspace disruption. And human technology doesn't? A Thexnor commander asked. Correct, Amy said. Humans never fully adopted quantum computing for critical systems. We use it for research and communication. But our ships, weapons, and life support run on more reliable technology. You call quantum computing unreliable? The Thexnor commander scoffed. I call it specialized, Amy said. Quantum processors are incredibly powerful under normal conditions, but they're vulnerable to subspace anomalies. Humans learned to build redundancy into everything. Multiple systems, multiple approaches, multiple backup plans. Because you come from a death world, Jareth said quietly. Because we come from Earth, Amy agreed. Where nothing works perfectly, and survival requires adaptation. Admiral Brooks resumed his briefing. After the pulse activation, Earth Fleet immediately began rescue operations. We have recovered over 2,000 disabled vessels. We have delivered emergency supplies to 47 worlds. We have provided technical assistance to every species that requested it. And you expect gratitude for cleaning up your own mess? A Vraxian delegate demanded. We expect nothing, Brooks said. But understand this. Earth didn't cause the Devourer crisis. We solved it. The collateral damage was unfortunate but unavoidable, and we have been working non-stop to repair that damage. Lisa Morgan stood. Earth is sharing our quantum shielding technology freely. We're not demanding payment, or territory, or political concessions. We're helping because that's who we are. You could demand anything, Kreltok said. The galaxy is helpless before you. You could name your price. We could, Greg Patterson agreed. But we won't. Because humans don't conquer. We cooperate. The chamber was silent. Every delegate was processing what they'd heard. Earth had saved them, disrupted them, and then helped them. It was complicated and messy, and nothing like the clean political narratives they were used to. Captain Brandon Hayes entered the chamber, arriving late from his escort mission. He approached Admiral Brooks and whispered something in his ear. Brooks nodded and turned back to the Council. I've just received confirmation, Brooks said. The last of the Devourer fleet has been confirmed, destroyed. Analysis of their technology shows they were preparing to assault the core worlds within days. If Protocol Nightfall hadn't stopped them, they would have reached the Council worlds before your fleets could assemble. You saved us from certain destruction, Jareth said, at the cost of temporary inconvenience. Some died during that temporary inconvenience, Kreltok said quietly. We can't forget that. We don't forget it, Lisa said. Every casualty is on our conscience. But set against billions who would have died to the devourers, the cost was justified. End quote. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to condemn Earth for their unilateral action. Others wanted to thank them. Most were simply confused, trying to understand how the galaxy's power structure had shifted so dramatically in just 1 week. Finally, as the station's day cycle moved toward evening, Krell called for a vote. The Council must decide. Do we recognize Earth's actions as justified defense, or do we condemn them as reckless endangerment? The vote was close. Some species voted to condemn, but most, remembering the alternative, voted for justification. Earth's actions were officially recognized as necessary and appropriate. However, Krell added, the Council also requires that Earth never activate Protocol Nightfall again without Council approval. Do you agree to this condition? Admiral Brooks looked at Ambassador Morgan. They had discussed this possibility. It was a reasonable request, but it also meant surrendering some of Earth's sovereignty. We agree, Lisa said. With one condition of our own. The Council must establish a mutual defense pact. If any member species faces an existential threat, all members respond immediately. No more abandoning worlds because assembly takes too long. The delegates looked at each other. It was a radical proposal. The Council had always operated on consensus, which meant slow decision-making and slower action. You want us to act like Earth, Jareth said. Decisively and without hesitation. I want you to act like a real government, Lisa said. One that protects its citizens. The debate started again, but with different energy. The delegates were discussing the future instead of arguing about the past. Slowly, reluctantly, they began to agree. The galaxy needed to change. Earth had forced that change, but maybe it was necessary. As the meeting finally adjourned, Greg Patterson found himself standing beside Jareth. The Keltharian observer looked tired but thoughtful. Your species frightens us, she said quietly. Not because you're cruel, but because you're competent. You do what you say you'll do. You solve problems instead of debating them. That kind of efficiency is disturbing. Why? Greg asked. Because it reminds us that we've become complacent, Jareth said. The Council has existed for 10,000 years. We thought we had all the answers. Then you arrived and showed us we'd forgotten how to actually solve problems. You could learn, Greg suggested. We are learning, Jareth said. Whether we want to or not. Outside the Council chamber, Captain Brandon Hayes met with other Earth Fleet officers. They were comparing notes on rescue operations and discussing the technical challenges of retrofitting alien systems with quantum shielding. How long do you think we'll be doing this? Nicole Sanders asked. Months at least, Brandon said. Maybe years. The galaxy isn't going to recover overnight. Good, Nicole said. It'll give them time to get used to us. Get used to us being in charge, you mean? Another officer said. We're not in charge, Brandon corrected. We're just the only ones currently capable of maintaining order. There's a difference. Dr. Amy Chen walked past, carrying a datapad filled with engineering specifications. She was heading to meet with Vraxian scientists to help them understand quantum shielding technology. Dr. Chen, Brandon called. Are you happy with how this turned out? Amy stopped and considered the question. Happy? No. Satisfied? Maybe. We saved billions of lives. We stopped an existential threat. But we also hurt people. That complexity doesn't have a simple emotional answer. Fair enough, Brandon said. 3 weeks later, the quantum pulse began to decay naturally, just as Dr. Chen had predicted. Systems across the galaxy started coming back online, protected by the shielding technology Earth had shared. Admiral Brooks stood in Earth Defense Command, watching status reports from across the galaxy. Green lights were replacing red ones as civilizations recovered their capability. It's working, one of his staff officers said. The galaxy is coming back online. Good, Brooks said. Then we can start stepping back. Let them handle their own problems again. Do you think they'll be ready? The officer asked. Eventually, Brooks said. They just needed to remember how. On Council Station Meridian, Ambassador Lisa Morgan prepared to return to Earth for consultations. She stood at a viewing port, watching human ships depart as alien vessels became operational again. Commander Greg Patterson joined her. "Thinking about what comes next?" he asked. "Always," Lisa said. "We changed the galaxy, Greg. We can't just pretend that didn't happen. So, what do? We be ourselves," Lisa said. "We keep helping when help is needed. We keep being honest even when it's uncomfortable. We keep showing them that power and responsibility go together." "That's a lot of pressure," Greg observed. "That's leadership," Lisa corrected. And like it or not, Earth just became the adults in the room. She was right. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers had proven to be the most capable in a crisis. Earth's ships, technology, and people had maintained order when everyone else panicked. More importantly, Earth had chosen to help rather than conquer. They had earned respect, not through force, but through competence and compassion. The galaxy went dark in 14 minutes, but in the weeks that followed, humanity lit it back up again. One ship, one station, one rescued crew at a time, and everyone was learning what humans had always known. When the crisis comes, you don't debate. You don't hesitate. You act. You help. You solve the problem. That was the human way. And now, reluctantly, it was becoming the galaxy's way too.